Hello everyone, let's talk about human circulatory system. Human circulatory system. We will study it under three main heads: the blood vessels, that is arteries, veins, capillaries, their structures, and then first, in the very first, we will discuss about blood vessels. Then we will talk about tissues like blood, lymph tissues, that is blood and lymph. In the last, the main pumping organ, the heart. In this video, we will discuss about the blood vessels. There are three types of blood vessels in the humans, that is arteries, veins and capillaries. Let's talk about those. Let me raise this. Three types of blood vessels are present in the human beings, that is arteries, veins and capillaries. Before we will discuss the comparison between these, let's understand the structure. We will study the structure of the arteries and veins first, and then we will talk about the capillaries. So now I am going to study the structure of the arteries and veins. The arteries and veins have a three-layered walls. So there are three layers present in the structure of the arteries and veins. The first one and the outermost is the tunica externa, or it is also called tunica adventitia. It is the outermost layer, and this layer is made up of the fibrous tissues. The fibrous tissues are both collagen and elastin. That is, it is made up of fibrous layer, and this is the fibrous layer which provides the strength to the tunica externa. So the functional part of this layer is to provide strength to the external layer, tunica externa, and this is the layer, that is the tunica externa or media adventitia, where all the nerves are present, that is, it is supplied with nerves, and even the vasa vasorums, that is, this layer is supplied with nerves and vasa vasorums. Vasa vasorums are actually the blood vessels of blood vessels. So what it means, the word the vasa vasorums, the blood vessels carry the blood to the particular organ and bring back that blood to the heart. The blood vessel which is providing the blood to the other blood vessel where it goes to the other body parts, that blood vessel which provides the blood to the blood vessel is called the vasa vasorums. So vasa vasorums are actually the blood vessels of blood vessels. So they are also called blood vessels of blood vessels. Inner to it is, first one layer is the tunica externa, and second layer is the tunica media, As the name tells us, it is the middle layer, and tunica externa is the outermost layer. It is the middle layer. This layer is made up of muscular tissues, made of muscular layer. So basically there are smooth muscle fibers which are present in the tunica media. Inner to it, and the innermost layer is the tunica interna. Tunica interna is divided into the two sublayers, and out of these two sublayers, the outermost is the elastin layer, or we can say the elastic layer, elastin layer, and it is the outer one, and the inner to it is the endothelium. This is the inner. Endothelium is made up of the simple squamous epithelium, whereas the elastin layer is made up of the yellow elastin fibers. So endothelium is the simple squamous epithelium, whereas it is made up of elastin, made up of yellow elastin fibers. So these are the three layers in case of arteries and veins. The outermost layer, when we talk of inner to towards outwards, when we talk about the structure, the outermost layer is the tunica externa, which is also called the tunica adventitia. As we said, that it is the fibrous layer, and the fibrous layer provides the strength to the tunica externa, and this is the layer which is supplied with the nerves and the vasa vasorums. And the second layer is the tunica media, which is made up of smooth muscle fibers, and it is the middle layer. Third layer is the tunica interna. It is divided into two layers, and outermost layer out of these two is the elastin layer, which is made up of yellow elastin fibers, and inner to it is the endothelium. So after we will take the comparative study between the arteries and veins, let's understand about the structure of these, so that we can able to understand the which layer is thicker in case of artery and which one is thinner. So I am going to draw the TS of the vein and the artery, that is the transverse section of. So let me raise this and shift it to the side so that we can see the all the layers of the arteries and veins. This is the transverse section of artery and TS of vein. Now I am going to draw the outermost layer, the tunica externa, and as we said that it is made up of the fibrous tissues. The fibrous tissues are both collagen and elastin, are present in the outermost layer of the artery. Again, the tunica externa. After we will draw the structure of the artery and vein, we will be able to compare the thickness of the layers between both the arteries and veins, and now you can able to see that the outermost layer, the tunica externa, is thinner in case of artery, whereas thicker in case of the vein. Next to it is the tunica media. this layer is made up of the smooth muscle fibers. Again is the tunica media, and tunica media is thicker in the artery and thinner in the vein. Let me label this. The first one and the outermost is the tunica externa, whereas inner to it is the middle layer, which is the tunica media. And now the innermost layer, the tunica interna, which is divided into the two sublayers, that is the elastin layer, and it is the outer layer out of these two layers, sublayers, endothelium and the elastin. And this one is the elastin layer. You can also see that the elastin layer is thicker in the artery and thinner in the vein. So this one layer is the elastin layer, which is made up of the yellow elastin fibers, and inner to it and the innermost sublayer of the tunica interna is the endothelium. It is made up of the simple squamous epithelium, as we have earlier said, and here also is the endothelium, which is the innermost layer. So this layer is the endothelium. It is made up of simple squamous epithelial cells. So this is the diagrammatic representation of the artery and the vein. So this space you can see in here is called the lumen, and you can see here in the diagram the lumen is wider in the vein as compared to the artery. So it is wider, that is lumen is wider in the structure of vein, whereas it has a small opening in the structure of the artery. So now we will take the comparison between the arteries and veins, and before this let's talk about the capillaries. Capillaries is has a simple structure, and it is made up of a single layer, which is the endothelium. Let's draw its structure. And this endothelium is also made up of the simple squamous epithelial cells, and these cells are resting on a membrane, which is called the resting membrane in case of the capillary. So this is the transverse section of capillaries. So now we will take the comparison between the arteries and veins in a detailed manner. Structurally, there is a difference of the thickness of the layers, and we have discussed about the three most important layers in the structure of the arteries and veins. The outermost layer is the tunica externa, inner to it the tunica media, and the innermost layer is the tunica interna, which is made up of the two sublayers, the the elastin layer, which is made up of yellow elastin fibers, and the endothelium, which is made up of the simple squamous epithelium. Let's understand about the detailed comparison of the arteries and veins. Let's take the comparison between arteries and veins. That is arteries and veins. The comparison we will start from the external appearance, location, and then we will talk about the histological or structure based comparison. So the first comparison is the arteries carry the blood away from the heart, carry blood away from the heart, whereas the veins carries the blood into the heart. Veins carry blood into the heart. It means the arteries carries the blood from the heart to the different body organs, whereas veins collects the blood from the different body parts to the heart. The next comparison is on the basis of which type of blood do they carry. The arteries carry oxygenated blood. Arteries carry oxygenated blood, whereas veins carry deoxygenated blood. There is also exception, except pulmonary vein, and in case of artery there is also one exception, except pulmonary artery. The oxygenated blood means the blood with plenty of oxygen, whereas the deoxygenated blood means the blood that is with plenty of carbon dioxide. So here is the deoxygenated blood. And when we will take the structure of the heart, we will understand how the pulmonary artery carries the deoxygenated blood, whereas the pulmonary vein carries the oxygenated blood. And we have right here that veins are mostly carries a deoxygenated blood, except the pulmonary vein which carries the oxygenated blood, whereas in case of artery it is the pulmonary artery which carries the deoxygenated blood. And next comparison is on the basis of location. The arteries are deep seated under the muscles. Arteries are deep under the muscles, whereas the veins are superficial. In case of artery, there are also some exceptions, except the wrist region. When you touch on your wrist, you can feel the pulse, because the pulses in the wrist region, that is the arteries, are the superficial. In the neck region, here in the neck, the arteries are also superficial. You can also feel the pulse there. In the ankle region, whereas the veins are superficial under the skin. The next comparison is on the basis of whether they have valves or not. The arteries need not the presence of valves, do not have valves. The function of valves is to prevent the backflow of blood, or we can say it promotes the unidirectional flow of blood from the heart, whereas in case of veins they have plenty of valves. So in case of veins they have valves which prevent the backflow of the blood. So in case of arteries, there are no valves because the blood comes under the high pressure that it is being pumped by the heart, so there is no chance of backflow of blood. So in case of veins, they have valves. The veins carries the blood from the different body organs. Suppose the blood has to go from the feet to the heart, the blood moves opposite to the gravity and it moves as its own with the help of muscles, as there is no pumping organ in the veins. So there is a presence of, so the need of valves is necessary in case of veins to prevent the backflow of blood, so that there will be the unidirection of the blood from the body organs to the heart. The next comparison is on the basis of histological features. We have seen that there are three valves in case of arteries and veins, and the fifth comparison is the outermost layer in the structure of artery is the tunica externa, and we have seen that tunica externa is thicker in case of artery, thinner in case of artery, whereas thicker in the vein. Next to it is the tunica media, and we know that tunica media is the middle layer, and it is thicker in the artery whereas thinner in the vein. Next to it and the innermost layer is the tunica interna. We have earlier said that tunica interna has two sublayers, and we will talk about here the elastin layer only. 7.1, the elastin, or we can say the elastic layer, is again thicker in the artery whereas thinner in the vein. And then one more difference is on the basis of lumen also. We have earlier talked about the lumen, that it is smaller, that is it has a small opening in the structure of artery, whereas it has a wider opening in case of the vein. So these are the important comparisons between the arteries and veins. Few more comparisons on which we can compare the arteries and veins is when the artery is cut, in case the artery is cut, the blood flows out from the cut with jerks, as the blood is getting pumped by the heart every time. So when the artery is cut, so when there is a cut in the artery, the blood flows out with jerks. Blood flows out with jerks. Whereas in veins, as there is no pumping organ, when the vein is cut, the blood flows in a very regular manner, or we can say the speed of the blood is uniform. So, in case of vein cut, blood flows out uniformly. One more comparison is when the person is died, the artery get emptied, and when the person is died, veins have a still blood. So arteries get emptied after the animal's death. Arteries also get emptied in case of the human being's death also, whereas veins still have blood in their blood vessels, or we can say capillaries. So one more comparison is when the artery of the died person is cut, the circular section of the artery remains in a circular outline, whereas the vein is cut in case of the died person, the vein, the circular section of, or we can say the diameter of the vein is going to collapse. So these are the 10 most important comparison between the arteries and veins. So in the last, my keen request to you is to subscribe my channel, share it to everyone. Thank you.